I am Claire Morgan, and I live in Charleston, South Carolina. For years, I thought I had finally met someone who truly understood me, who saw me for who I really was. He was charming, attentive, and seemed to genuinely care. It was like I was living in a dream. His name was Ryan, and when we started dating, I felt like I had found the one I had been waiting for. He listened to everything I had to say, shared interests, and made me feel special in ways I never had before. The first few months felt perfect, almost too perfect. There was romantic weekend trips, long conversations about our dreams, and he surprised me with little thoughtful gestures that made me believe I had finally found true love. I was so happy, and I opened up to him more than I ever had before, sharing my deepest fears and hopes. But I should have known there was a darker side hiding beneath all that charm. Soon, I started to notice small cracks in his veneer. At first, little things, remarking cynically about how I looked, making snarky comments about my appearance or my words, and sometimes flirting with other women right in front of me to try and spark jealousy. I would cry after those moments, and he would apologize and act as if he was just joking or didn't mean it. Sometimes, he promised he would change. But the truth was, it only got worse. His outbursts became more frequent and more intense. He started to insult me, question my worth, and make me feel like I was always walking on eggshells. I remember catching him browsing online dating sites late at night, pretending to check something for fun, but I knew better. I once looked over his shoulder when he thought I wasn't paying attention and saw messages exchanged with other women, some explicit, some just casual flirtations. When I confronted him, he calmly said he did it just to see if I was jealous, to control me. I felt sick. I remembered early in our relationship, he struggled with computers, asking me for help setting up accounts for chess sites, and I helped him with simple passwords. One day, I decided to test something. I used the typical username and password he had given me that day to access a dating site. The moment I logged in, my stomach dropped. I found his profile, and worse, I found conversations where he called other women beautiful, engaging in flirtatious talk and even talking about meeting them. Some of these conversations included details about me, things he claimed he didn't like about me, things he was dissatisfied with. I couldn't breathe. I sank to the floor, tears pouring down my face, feeling like I'd been punched in the gut. All the happiness and trust I had felt shattered in an instant. That was the moment I realized I had been love-bombed, manipulated into trusting someone who was secretly betraying me. That night, I cried myself to sleep, feeling broken and betrayed, but a strange part of me snapped. I was furious. I decided I was not going to let him get away with this. From that moment, I started planning my revenge. I created a fake online dating profile and started chatting with him. I made sure to pretend to be hopeful, eager to meet, just enough to keep him interested. After a few days, he finally suggested we meet in a popular coffee shop downtown. I was nervous, shaking inside, but I agreed. I showed up dressed in a way that made me look more like a stranger than myself, sitting in a corner where he wouldn't recognize me immediately. I felt sick, half hoping he wouldn't show up and this would all just be a terrible nightmare. About 10 minutes before our date, I called him and asked where he was and if we could meet. He said he suddenly had an errand to run and couldn't come. My heart plummeted, and I kept my eyes glued to the door, waiting for the moment I knew would come. Sure enough, in walked Ryan, looking around nervously. He saw me sitting there and sat. At first, he looked calm, almost confident, waiting for someone. Then he started to fidget and look nervously at the door with every passing second. I watched as every woman who entered seemed to catch his eye. And then, as if by fate, the exact type of woman I had described in my fake profile entered, similar look, similar style, almost like a mirror image of myself. Ryan practically sprang up in his seat and hurried over to her. He approached her and said something. She shrugged him off, looking irritated, and told him to leave her alone. But he persisted, trying again. The woman, clearly annoyed, told him to leave her alone or she would call security. He hesitated, then slunk back to his seat, fidgeting and glancing around the room like he was looking for someone else, or maybe just trying to hide his shame. That afternoon, I sent him a message through the fake profile I'd created, revealing I was the woman he had been hitting on in the coffee shop. I told him I was not interested, admitted I had faked everything to see how far he'd go. I told him I saw him, that he was unattractive in every way that mattered, and that I was too cowardly to face me in person. I apologized because I knew he would twist it into some kind of joke or blame me, but I made sure he understood I was done. That day was the beginning of my plan to punish him. I did it again, setting up multiple fake dates, intentionally flaking, canceling, or showing up just to humiliate him. I made him chase ghosts, stand outside cafes waiting for women who would never show. Sometimes the women canceled last minute, sometimes they simply didn't arrive, but I kept it going, never letting him forget what it felt like to be played. Eventually, I decided enough was enough, and I was ready to end it all. I met him in a public place, a park with lots of witnesses, and told him straight that I was done, that he was a lying, cheating bastard who didn't deserve my trust or my love. He tried to gaslight me, to turn it all around, saying I was just jealous, insecure, or crazy. But I looked him in the eyes and said, all those failed dates. I was the one behind every single one of them. I pulled out his passwords and told him to explain. His face fell, realization sinking in. I left him standing there, stunned and humiliated, knowing he had lost everything. Months later, I got an email from him, long and full of pathetic apologies, saying that my revenge was brilliant and that I was the love of his life, and that he now feared he would never find another woman because every woman he met could be me, just a mirror of his own failure. I ignored it. I never responded. I knew I had won, not just because I hurt him, but because I reclaimed myself from the wreckage he left behind. I changed after all that, became stronger, more cautious, and more determined never to let anyone manipulate my trust again. Because sometimes, the only way to fight back against the monsters is to become their nightmare.